Okay, shalom, welcome to this channel again. I'm sorry that I couldn't make a lot of videos this time, and for those of you who's watching my videos here, you know that I just give birth and really quite busy this time. But then the reason why I started making videos kicks me this time that I need to keep going and keep making videos. And so just started like this. Uh, but prior to that, I would like, though I'm busy, I am so thankful for the thing that our Creator, whom I call Father, yeah, allow me to witness as I went through this thing that I'm going through with my life, I would say. And I believe I did not give thanks yet, though I personally give thanks to them already for those people who really been, say, part of what we went through with my family, I would say. And they are, I would say, my Shalom Assembly family, and especially to the Bumbarak family in Lincoln. I would really say you can still remember when our midwife asked us to look for somebody to take care of Zephaniah, and uh, Sister Sally really, with no ifs and no buts, like just really say yes and he can take care of him. So also Sister Stacy, and of course the Wilson, who really, I would say, uh, the Bombarak really even care to make us food in those days that we're really struggling so hard. And I would say also the Wilsons for their kindness, and I would really say they even came to the point that they really came to our house to do the cleaning of our house at that time, and I was really so thankful for that. And yeah, to everyone also who offers prayer, to my mama and my nanay, and even to my mother-in-law, who also really spent time a week to just do the helping the household chores and taking care of Zephaniah too. And so yeah, so let me go to the things that I would like to share with you. And that just started last Feast of Unleavened Bread. And for those of you who might watch this video who are not observing these observances, this can be found in Leviticus 23. You can find all of these observances there. And I would say the 7 observances that are there in Leviticus 23, I would say that's the perfect plan of our Creator for our salvation. And let me just mention 3 this time. The first one there is the Feast of Passover, and I believe that represents the death of our Redeemer, whom I call Yehoshua HaMashiach. And through his death, we have hope for eternal life. And the second observance is pardon the English, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and that's because he dies for us. We ought to live a life that he showed to us, being his life as an example itself, that he lived a life of pure, that can be seen in the unleavened bread. As you know, flour is white, so we need to live a pure life and fine like flour, and without leavening, without leavening being the symbol of sins. Okay, so, and then after that, and by the way, the Feast of Unleavened, the Passover should be celebrated. We should celebrate it on the 14th, and unleavened bread would be on the 15th, and say 14th, it should be on the 14th, and unleavened bread should be on the 15th. And as I already declared, should still the way I see want to celebrate the Passover should be in the 14th. And looking at, this is my conviction, I would say, looking at Exodus Shemot 12, you can see there that we should prepare the Passover lamb as a representation of our Redeemer on the evening of the 14th and eat it on the night of the 14th. And then we have the midnight cry, the killing of the firstborn, and then they are not allowed to get out in their houses. And then the following day, they were asked to ask articles, garments, and whatsoever from their neighbors, the Egyptians. And then on the night of that, it's on starting when the sun sets, it's the evening of that, it's the starting point of the 15th. And the night of that, they left Egypt, the Israelites, I would say, at the time when they were in bondage in the land of Egypt, Mitzrayim. So the night of that, they left Egypt. And so I do believe, stood still, that the celebration of the Passover should be in the 14th. But it's like Elder Dwayne, I agree with him that as long as you celebrate your Passover on the 14th, then I believe it's good, because the celebration of the Passover festival should be on the 14th. Now, I would call this thing that I would like to share with you from this day forward to be reflections, meditations, and lessons learned. And I would shorten it to RML. And started last Feast of Unleavened Bread. It's been quite a long time that I'm really trying to pray and ask Father, yeah, what's the thing that He wants me to serve Him, and try to, what's this, evaluate myself. I would say that if if I'm gonna serve Him with strength, I don't have much. So I would really say He's my strength, and I can only have strength through Him. Talking of money, we don't have much to other than our tithes that you can serve. What's the abundant that I could really give is my voice. Time not much, but I can find a time to serve Him. Voice, I would say, and brain. Though I'm not saying that I'm intellectual like that, but I would say I have a functional brain that He protected. I already shared with you, those who watch my video, how He protected my brain from a huge brain tumor. And I would say these are the things that through this I can offer, I can serve to Him. And so I'm using it. And uh, let's say last Feast of Unleavened Bread, I learned that this prior to the next observe feast, I would say, is from the Feast of Unleavened Bread, we're going to the Feast of Shavuot. And say, when we say Feast of Unleavened Bread, that's Kag Hamachoth. And we say Passover, that's Pesach in Hebrew. And Shavuot, that's also a Hebrew word. And if you're going to translate that into English, that would be the Feast of Weeks. Comes from the root word Shiva, that is 7, and also comes out of that is this word Shavua, that is week. And so when we say weeks, that is Shavuot. And but another name of the Feast of Shavuot is also called the Feast of Harvest. Now, learning from last Feast of Unleavened Bread, I learned that trying to look at this word Feast of Harvest, we count 50 days from the Feast of Unleavened Bread. By the way, there are, I would say, different understanding when it comes to that matter. When should we start the counting of 50 days? And another thing that I would like to say, share, is that when we look at the meaning behind the number 50, it signifies freedom and amazing. I don't know how true or what's really the correct timing of, or the amount of time, is that the right term to use. Just recently, the Supreme Court of United States what's this illegalized abortion, and rejoice for that, though the big cities in United States though protest with the decision of the Supreme Court. And I don't know if this is correct, that it's from what I heard was from brother, seems like from brother Steve, it's about 50 years that the United States legalized abortion. And just in the 50th year of legalizing abortion that they decided to illegalize it again. So that's amazing, because 50 signifies freedom. And so counting also starting from, I would say, as I said a while ago, there are different understanding when should we start counting the 50, going to the Feast of Shavuot. It's also called the Feast of Harvest. Now, here's the thing. So, way back in my home country, we celebrated the Feast of Shavuot, starting the counting on, because it says there in Leviticus 23 that you start your counting on the morrow after the Shabbat. And now, here's the thing. Some of the celebrations there, they are called Shabbat. It's called Shabbat Shabbaton. But then so the Shabbats there, it's plural. And so some started counting on after the first day of unleavened bread because that is Shabbat Shabbaton. It's one of the Shabbats. And so you're going to rest on that day. But others go for the weekly Shabbat. And if you try to look at the word that's used there, that's really weekly Shabbat. But then here's the thing. In my home country, we do it after the feast because the reason that goes like this. The field, the farm of the Israelites are not in, because that's because the feast of unleavened bread, Shavuot, and the feast of harvest and the feast of booths, you need to travel. So if you go travel, you're gonna go to Jerusalem where the temple was. And so if you're gonna travel, then your farm is not there. So you need to go back home so before you can, because you need to do harvest with your grains before you can start accounting. But then here's the thing. I just learned it this time. I just heard it this time, I would say. And that's Joshua 5:11 says that on the morrow after the Passover, they eat the grains of the land. Now, if you try to go back in Leviticus 23, it says there that you can put your sickle, you can start harvesting unless you do the Thanksgiving first. And we can't say that the grains that they eat on the time when they reach the land in the record of Joshua 5:11 or 10, kindly check, kindly validate that was an old grains because of the word parch. And when you say parch, it is like removing the moisture of a mature grain but not old, because you can't remove the moisture already of an old grains. It needs to be a fresh harvest, but the grains like it's mature but still has the moist. The easy way to picture it out, it's like this type of corn that we roast like that, and it's mature, you can eat it, but there's still a moist. And when you that's the way of parching, like you need to remove that moist in there. And that's what it meant with that word parch. So, and it's the very reason why we can say that grains that they eat when they reach the land is an old grains. Correct? Okay, so because of that, uh, a lot of the believers, since it's stated there, just of 5:10 or 5:11, just kind of check, that says, on the morrow after the Passover, they eat the grains of the land. So if they eat the fresh harvest, they parch it and make cakes out of that. We in our culture, we have this called pinipig in the days of old, that we parch, we remove the moisture of the corn and then grind it and then make a cake out of it. And I believe that's what he did too. And so if we say that they harvested that grains, they also did the wave sheep offering, the Thanksgiving thing. And if they do that on the morrow after the Passover, a greater chance that the counting of the 50 days prior to the Feast of Harvest started on that time. And so a lot of the believers here in the United States, they start the counting of the 50 days, known as counting the 50 days of Omer, on the Feast of Unleavened Bread because of that. But I would say my father usually start his counting on the very morning of the following day after the Pesach, the Passover. But there are some reasons, some of the brothers here, that they said it just happened at the time that the Passover was on Shabbat. And so the morrow after Shabbat is the very first day of the unleavened bread. My father's reasoning to that is that it could not be the feast of unleavened bread, because the unleavened bread is, what's this? This no work day, so you can go to the field and harvest your grains. But then the reasoning also of the brothers who started counting on the first day of unleavened bread, or like what happened this year, is that if you try to look at the time when the Israelites get out from the land of Mitzrayim, they travel too long. And that's Feast of Unleavened Bread, and that should be no work, but then they carry a lot of things, because that's the time that they left Egypt, right? So I'll not talk so much about of that, enough of that. I'll just go over what this thing that I learned from the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and that looking at the meaning of that 50 days, and looking at the time when, starting from the time the Passover, which signifies the death of the Messiah, where we have redemption of our sin, and then going to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, where we need to live a life without living a life of the life of Yahushua Mashiach, following his footsteps, I would say. And then you're gonna count 50 days from that time forward to go to the Feast of Harvest. It goes like this. So Yahushua, our Redeemer, dies for us. You need to follow his footsteps, his lifestyle. And then that's 7 days. You need to do it 7 days. It means perfectly. You need to do that. And then 50 days from that time forward, which you can have freedom, and you're gonna be, and how it will happen through harvest. Yahushua will harvest his people, okay? And there's two crucial things talking about harvest, because if we can remember this parable of there's parable in the gospel that see they are planting, right? And then when the seeds started to grow, they found out that there's grass, and they said to their master that it should be pulled out the grass, and he said, no, let's wait for the harvest. And then again, when the harvest time comes, you need to pull out the grass first and throw them into the lake of fire, and the wheat you're going to gather to my barn. And so there's something that we need to be very, very careful, because the harvest time will be for both those who will be thrown into the lake of fire, and for those who will be gathered to his barn. And it's an amazing thing, because there are two parables there that also talk about the coming of our King of Kings. And it says that what's this? There are two men who are in the field, and then one is taken and one was remain, right? And there were times when we say men are in the field, it's either they prepare the field, they plant, it's time of planting, it's time of preparing the field, or it's time of harvest. Now, amazing, because he added another parable to that, and that's the two women, and they are grinding grains. And so if it's grinding grains, it clearly tells us that that's a time of harvest. And so, and another thing is that because of that, by the way, I learned that since it's about this 50 days is about harvest, so we need to be prepared with ourselves, and we need to purify, remove everything that's not good from us. This purge ourselves to be ready for the harvest. So when the time of harvesting will be here, we can be sure that we will be gathered to his barn and not be thrown into the lake of fire. And because of that, I decided to do a lot of reflections and meditations. And since for me to live life is about to live it, to learn, and to share what we learned for. And because of that, I decided, since I keep praying of the things that I want to say, serve our master, I decided that to share my reflections and my meditations and the lessons that I learned, hoping that I can help others too with the things that I learned. And so let's go over to the first reflection, meditations, and lessons learned that I learned recently. I would say since at the time. So life really gets so tough for me this time. I would say uh, I can still remember. So I went to all pregnant women who could surely relate. So you went to your last trimester, your third trimester, you're starting to have painful contractions, and you start your labor, and you go birth, and after birth, things will not stop there. You suffer pain from your wounds, and I have a traumatic birth, and then the scary thing is, well, my baby survived, and Precious, he did survive, and it's truly amazing because I'm praising him because I'm able to witness his deliverance, his compassion, his kindness, his power, and his great faithfulness. Because of that, I'm able to give birth of Bridge baby that his cord wrap around his neck, and there's a lot of things that's been pronounced already to him that he'll not grow up normal, and because his brain was damaged, because he went to oxygen deprivation, and that he don't have any breath anymore when he reached the hospital. But praise, yeah, it's truly amazing that his MRI result shows that his brain has don't have any damage at all, and it's truly amazing for me. And yeah, but my struggle did not end up there. I thought after we can bring Yoshia home, everything will be run smoothly, but no, it didn't went through like that. Like, I need to pump milk every 3 hours, and sometimes if I get lumps, I can't sleep at night at all. I need to pump all throughout the night. Just recently, I pump up to 4 o'clock in the morning because I sleep 6 hours, and then next able to sleep for 4 hours. Just last week, and then the following night, oh my, I can't sleep with that. I have huge lumps already on my breast, and I couldn't sleep. Every time I go to sleep, like, I couldn't sleep because it's just so painful. Need to keep pumping and pumping, and before I know, it's already 4 o'clock in the morning, and didn't able to sleep yet. And with a toddler on my end, I thought, because Zephaniah was really my great helper before I give birth, and then after I give birth, all of a sudden, just everything changed. Like, he's struggling to adjust with the situation, that are all our attentions that once was just only for him is now divided. And so, like, he's really doing like the crazy things that I could remember was that when because I'm doing homeschool too, so I'm doing flashcards with him, and then she cried in the other room, so I left him with the flashcards. And then when I came back, he already said that he pooped, but my husband and I couldn't find the poop. And then and it was preparation day even, and when I decided, oh, I left my flashcard here, the flashcard is already scattered on the floor, and when I started to pick them up, oh my, the poop is there. And it's preparation day, and there's a lot of things that needs to be done, and yeah, really not so easy. And yeah, so, and I remember last feast of unleavened bread, I keep pumping milk even in at night. And then my husband gets sick, and he couldn't help me much, and Zeph and I get trouble, and the baby is struggling to sleep too. And then I was like crying there. And then when I wake up at the morning, my reflection and meditation goes like this. So I already start to ask Father why I went through all these things. Like, can this be stopped? Can this be enough? Because I feel like I have so much already, I have enough already from the labor, sleepless night, going to traumatic birth, and then waking up every night, sleepless night keeps going through. And then my husband gets sick now, couldn't help me. And then when I brought that complaints before him, he said, I am a teacher and a trainer at the same time. And he brought me back when I was still a teacher. And when there were times when I was asked to train my pupils for a certain presentation, and I do it twice. And the hardest presentation that I made was to make saya. We call it sayawet, where you make your pupils, your children, to able to perform. They need to sing and dance at the same time and act at the same time. And you really need to remove all this lousy performance of them, and it's quite hard because dancing itself, you need to see that they are in graceful way when they move, and all of them when they move they're in uniform, because you need to do like just 4 or 5 pairs, and you need to sing with the right timing and facial expression and everything, and you're looking for a best performance out of them, and you're trying to remove every lousy performance of them, that well, so to make the presentation at its best. And that's what the thing that he told me. He said that I want you to perform at your best, and this is the reason why you went through all these things, because I'm trying to remove all this lousy move of yours, because I want to see the best of you, the best performance of yours. And that's one of my reflections, and hoping to share more of my reflections as the days go by. Until next time, shalom. And if there's something here that I've said that needs to be validated, so kindly treat me like a Samaritan woman whom when he speak out of those people in her community tries to validate what she said. So I hope and pray that I'm able to share something this time that's worthy of your time. Until next time, shalom.